Enterprise Management 360.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Tech Chat. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm really looking forward to be speaking with Brad Winsor, the Vice President of Workforce Analytics at SplashBI. Today, Brad is going to be walking us through all the reasons that organisations should become more data-driven. Thank you so much for joining me today, Brad. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. In today's enterprise landscape, many companies are looking to become more data-driven. What competitive advantages are there to being an organisation of this kind?
There's really a bunch across the whole board. Business intelligence is used to improve sales pipelines, lean manufacturing, all sorts of stuff across business. Speaking specifically to the people space or the HR space, there are actually a lot of competitive advantages. HR used to do, for our reporting, we used to do reports, absenteeism lists, compliance stuff, and we're now using business intelligence to actually make the most of the workforce that we have now. So there's all sorts of real competitive advantages you have. One thing is that something we forget is people is the number one expense of most organizations. And if it's not, it's the number two expense. It's a manufacturing type thing. And turnover and performance, these are things that we have a lot of control over, or at least we can have a lot of influence over. So BI is being used right now to make the most of the workforce we have. Unemployment, at least in the US, unemployment's at an all-time low. So it's important to make the most of the workforce you have. It's also to leverage the workforce, to prepare your workforce to adapt to the next technology change. Depending on the business, skills last for 5 or 10 years. So employees have to be retrained to stay current. Just getting data into leaders' hands, that's the other side of people analytics. Leaders in the organization need this data. So as opposed to just getting reports and little hints when they're out of compliance or if people are taking too much sick time, they would actually get onto dashboards and see their current data for their team. So just getting that data out there allows leaders to make fact-based decisions as opposed to hunches. I've been a manager for a long time, and I've pretty much 90% of my decisions have been hunch-based. And it's very refreshing to have a little bit of data to help support these decisions. And lastly, it helps a lot with diversity. It's not too hard to measure the diversity of a workforce, just in terms of numbers. Do we have the right numbers of this type of people? But the inclusion part is really difficult to do without business intelligence. And these together make you a more attractive place to work. They increase your employer brand.
Well, you certainly make a very good case for it, Brad. But what roadblocks might a company encounter when trying to adopt a more data-driven culture?
Yeah. Once they're ready to go, it is a great thing. It usually starts from the top. A data-driven leader shows up, COO, somewhere in the company, or just an initiative, do a little more. And there are roadblocks. One is that our data, and I'm speaking to the HR space, people data, it tends to be locked up in systems all over the place. There's a core human capital management system. Every company has one, and that holds kind of the core of your people data. There's also applicant tracking systems, which are typically a different system. They don't talk to each other. So we have data all over the place. Some of it's on-premise, on our own servers. Some is on the cloud where we don't even see the data. So we've got data all over the place. And in order to really get any help from this stuff, we have to get it together to unite the employee stories. And getting all these silos together is essential to make any sense of this stuff. And that actually stops a lot of people. They look at it and go, well, all I can get is this out of system A, this out of system B. And it kind of stops them right there. So uniting the data is the first roadblock, and it's actually not that hard to get past. Another one that stops some companies is trust. If they don't have a good basis of solid reporting already, it's hard to get people to trust business intelligence, because business intelligence is analytics, and which means it's not just lists of stuff. We're not just showing reports, which is just showing you the data in a list or on paper. It's analyzing the data and coming up with performance indicators based on the data. And sometimes it's rates and numbers that you wouldn't know otherwise. And if you don't have a foundation of trust, you won't believe this stuff. Something will say, oh, this is running in the red, and you won't believe it. So it's important to have a solid foundation of reporting coming out of the group already, just good basic HR reporting. And if there's trust coming out of the group, then you have a good platform to do a strong BI initiative. Otherwise, trust becomes a roadblock.
Okay, so going back to your point about seeking experts to help you on your data journey, organisations will often look to business intelligence platforms to give them better visibility into their data. So what should companies look for in terms of choosing a BI platform?
First thing is just to make sure that its functionality suits your needs. In my opinion, it's essential that the BI tool for an organization understands people analytics. So a basic BI tool will understand lists. It's great at filtering, can do some predictive. They do all that stuff, lots of visualizations, calculations, all that. People analytics extensions really give it an understanding of the hierarchy so that it can calculate KPIs for leaders in the organization. So you can look at all the leaders in the top 2 or 3 levels. This could be hundreds or thousands of leaders, and just see how their individual performance is as a leader. Another thing it should be able to do is just calculate basic key performance indicators around that. And this is around people analytics as well. It should have an understanding of what's turnover, retention, absenteeism rates, just sort of basic stuff. It needs to be able to do that. You can do these things with generic BI tools. It just takes a whole lot longer because a lot of that's already been created there. Another thing it should have is a people-oriented predictive model. So most BI tools have some type of predictive capability in them. But if they don't have anything around people analytics, it won't be able to do any predictive using the reporting relationship. So that's sort of a different conversation, but predictive analytics open a whole new world of data points when you look at the relationships of people within a company. And another thing it should have is just security built in, so you don't have to rewire security from the very beginning. A lot of these basic systems, they'll provide any security options you want, but they don't know what you want, so you have to tell it everything. And if you make a mistake, then there can be a serious governance issue. One mistake, someone sees something they shouldn't, that's a little scary. So that's just the platform in picking a BI tool. For people analytics, probably the biggest key, actually beyond that, once you know the tool can at least do what you need, is pre-built content. There are hundreds of metrics that 95% of organizations need around the people space. Turnover, absenteeism, retention. There's just some standard stuff everybody needs, and there's no point in building that yourself. So whatever you pick should have all that stuff built and ready to go. It should have a few hundred metrics, at least 80-90% of what you need ready to go, unless you really enjoy a super long project. Other things, just technical things, it should be able to live where your data lives. BI tools a lot of times focus on the visualizations and some of the fancy charts you can get, and that's cool. We need fancy charts and graphs, but we also need to be able to run basic reports that just give us lists of stuff to validate these analytics that we're seeing. So just basic reporting is a good thing to have in there as well.
Brad, thank you so much for all of your insight. There's certainly a lot to take away from this discussion. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Tech Chat, and thank you once again to Brad for that insightful discussion. If you're interested in generating leads for your business, then head on over to our Tell Us Your Audience page, where we can distribute your content across North America, APAC and Europe, delivering SQLs and MQLs right back to you. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn, or head on over to our website em360tech.com for more great content.